Your Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am, of course, your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. What a Monday evening it was for Pittsburgh. It looked like they did not have it, and trust me, they did not have it after the first 20 minutes. And then they just absolutely took it to Vegas. Those last 40 minutes, they scored 5 unanswered goals. They get that 5-3 win. 4-2 overall road trip. Most of it was on the West Coast. Of course, they had that one in Philadelphia as well. They now come home for 7 of their next 8 at PPG Paints Arena starting on Thursday against Matt Murray and the Ottawa Senators. He will be returning to Pittsburgh for that game. Just overall, I think my first biggest takeaway from this is, the Penguins, they continue to find new ways to win. And what I mean by that, for this one, this was probably Tristan Jarry's worst performance of the season, right? And, he really hasn't given up a lot of bad goals. That first one to Chandler Stevenson, that can't go in. Bad angle, 5-hole. He usually swallows that up 9.9 out of the 10 times. That one he doesn't. It's 1-0 right then. The second one with Mark Stone, it was a slap shot from the point, but it was deflected. I'm not really going to give him, too much for that one. The third one, though, I definitely thought he could have saved that one. There really wasn't too much of a screen. It was just a bad goal to allow. But credit to him because he played well in the second and third periods. Well, he did try to do a mini reincarnation of Josh Bailey from the playoffs where he goes out of the net, basically turns it over, but then has a hell of a poke check to poke it off. I believe it was Stone who had the puck at that time. But, he made some really great saves those last 2 periods. Outside of that, obviously that horrific play. But, that's what you want to see, from a goaltender that, he's struggling a little bit. He's fighting the puck. He comes back, plays a lot better. But, overall, that said, it wasn't that good of a performance just because of a couple of the goals that he allowed. I know the Penguins were able to come back and score 4 on Leonard. Obviously, one of the last one was the empty netter. But for a good portion of that game, Leonard was outplaying Jarry. But, at the end, it didn't matter because the Penguins really turned up their play. And I think another big one is you're not going to often dictate play against a team like Vegas for a full 60 minutes. I'm having trouble breathing almost just because I think I ate dinner 40 minutes ago. I don't know what's going on. You're in the Sin City. Vegas is usually one of the toughest places to play, though their home record is a bit middling this season. If I recall correctly, it's around 12-10-2. So right around 500, which is weird because, the atmosphere there is incredible. I saw a lot, just watching the game last night. They do a terrific job with just, with the pregame ceremony to the intermission stuff, just to, how loud the chants get and everything. Just watch a playoff game in Vegas, whether on TV or in person. It's one of the best, arenas, I think, in the NHL. But, I loved what Jeff Carter said after the game. He said in the first intermission, a couple of the leaders spoke up and he's like, we got our shit together. And boy, did they ever, because in the second period, the Penguins absolutely took it to the Golden Knights. I know 50% of the shot attempts is nothing to scoff at, but, the Penguins overall from that second period, they had 72% of the scoring chances. They had a high danger advantage of 9-1. 9 high danger chances in one period. Some teams don't even get 9 high danger chances in the same game. That just goes to show how dominant that period was. I know Vegas pushed back a little bit in those final 5 minutes. It looked like Pittsburgh could not even get the puck out of their own zone. at all. I really liked how Vegas was cycling down low. Just their forecheck was ferocious. Their defensemen were getting some good shots on net. But, I said to myself going into the third, they needed to just be down one. You can't give up a goal in the final 5 minutes because, if it's 4-2, does the comeback even happen? Probably not, right? I mean, I personally don't think so. But they're able to have it at 3-2. They tie it early on in the third at 3-3. They then take the lead, and then they hold that lead for the rest of the game. They clinch it with a Sidney Crosby empty netter with about a minute left. But that was the period where the Penguins really made their move. I didn't see that coming just because of how poorly they played in the first 20 minutes. That honestly looked like the worst period of the season, just because the Penguins were getting boat raced. Their skating was horrendous. They were not forechecking with any authority. Their defensive work left a lot to be desired. For some reason, Evgeny Malkin was down low in a one-on-one battle in front of the net when he should have been at the front of the point. It was funny. For the second goal for Vegas, it was Mike Matheson was at the top of the point defending when he should be down low. And Evgeny Malkin, when he's supposed to be at the point, he was down low trying to box out this defender. Box out. I'm trying to remember which player it was. It wasn't Stone that scored. It was a deflection. It'll come to me. I'm probably just being a moron. But, Malkin was trying to outbox him, and he couldn't. And, that's not who you want down there, just trying to play defense in situation. Malkin's never been known for his defense. He's never going to be known for his defense. We all know what he's great at. But, just a really unfortunate situation, I thought there. But, again, after that, even in the third period, Pittsburgh continued to take it to Vegas. They tied the game with another Jason Zucker goal. And I'll just get into him, before we get to the second segment here. What a performance from Zucker last night. Returns from a few weeks off, gets 2 goals. And it's almost like, let me just breathe for a second here. Wow, he has his second line center back in Evgeny Malkin. And hint, hint, he did not mess up the chemistry or structure. And what do you know? Jason Zucker is back to scoring goals. Now, is that going to continue for the rest of the season? Who knows? It might not be just because of his luck. I mean, I'm looking like a complete moron predicting him to score 20 to 25 this year. But, that was a good good starting step, for Zucker. That first one gets the monkey off his back a little bit, was potentially going to get called back. I know Robin Leonard was kind of whining about it post-game. I don't think Zucker made a lot of contact with him. That was a goal. The second one, awesome deflection off of a set play. It was the James Neal play that Malkin and him did so many times when Neal was here. And Malkin would win the faceoff back, and then Neal would wrist it in, boom, goal. The same thing happened here. Malkin won it back, Kapanen shot it. It looked like it was his goal at first, but Zucker tipped it in, and he got credit for the goal, and that was his second of the night. That was the goal that tied the game. The second goal before that, just a hell of a move from Brian Boyle. The body positioning on Shea Theodore, I think, is the big one there, right? He comes in on the breakaway. He's shielding Theodore from the puck. He's on his backhand with it. He's also kind of thinking in his head, okay, if I don't score here, I want to make sure that I leave a bit of a juicy rebound because I know Teddy Bluger is right behind me. Well, Boyle accomplished that and then some. He put the puck on net. He obviously tried to score. It was saved by Leonard's pad. It kicks out a little bit, and then Bluger has a wide open net, makes it 3-2. The Penguins are right back in the game. They continue to push on in the second period before they had a really nice third. That is the kind of really great hockey IQ play from someone like Boyle. I know he's probably not going to be in the lineup full time, especially once Heinen and Aston Reese come back here. I would assume they'll be good to go for one of these 2 games this week against Ottawa or Columbus. We'll have to see. I think they'll be eligible because of the 5-day quarantine. But we'll just we'll also have to see at that point. But I really have liked Boyle's game this year a lot more than I thought I would. He's just I think he's the really perfect 13th forward for this team. I know people like Radim Zohorna, all this other stuff, but I've personally really liked Boyle's game this year. It's nothing flashy. He's a bit older. He hasn't played a lot of hockey recently, but if he's coming in when there has to be a player that comes out for a game or 2 due to an injury, I'm perfectly fine with that. But those are just my analysis of a few of the first 3 goals, I should say. I'm going to get to Jake Gensel's goal coming up here in the second segment as well. But it was just really nice to see Zucker have a bit of a pulse. He had a 2-on-1 earlier in the game, made the right play. A lot of the Penguins in those situations would just force the pass and all this other crap, but he actually shot it. Had a really good chance. Leonard just made a better save, but Zucker did have the last laugh and scored 2 goals. Again, really hoping that this can be, the start of something, I guess, special in a way. I am rooting for him. He plays his ass off every shift. He's a fun player to watch, and I know he's also frustrating. I get that, but this is a player that gives it his all every single night. I would rather be rooting for someone like that to score over someone that it looks like they don't really give a crap out there. So I was really appreciative, of what Zucker did last night. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to go into Sidney Crosby's performance. I thought it was a bit of a mixed bag. We're going to go into why I thought that was a mixed bag. We're also going to get into Jake Gensel's 20th goal of the year. We're not even at the halfway point, and it's ridiculous what he's doing. We're going to get into some thoughts on Kris Letang and why he had a couple of shifts to forget about, I would say, for his NHL career, and also have a couple of other things to touch on as well. Before we do that, BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports betting action for 2022. It's a new year, and that means a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. Welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. I should say before we get into a couple of other player performances, and I'll give you all my thoughts on those. I did see a couple takes out there, just, everywhere, message boards, social media, all that this was the win of the season for the Penguins. I'm honestly not there personally. I think the Washington one about a month and a half ago was a bit better just because, it was a full 60 minutes. They dominated them in basically every capacity. I know it got a little close at the end, but, territorially, Pittsburgh definitely had the better of the play in that game, and it translated into the scoreboard as well. And I thought their defensive work was top notch. And of course, Tristan Jarry was excellent. I thought in this one, for 40 of the 60 minutes, the Penguins did play some outstanding hockey. And, beating a really good Vegas team on the road, especially on the last game of a long road trip, that's a tall order. Don't get me wrong. But I still don't think it compares to the Washington game overall. If I had to rank it, I would have this game probably as the second best win of the season. There have been obviously a couple other ones. The St. Louis one comes to mind. That's probably right below this one. But I think if we're talking like a win of the season for the Penguins so far, it was that one in Washington because they got embarrassed that first time. What was it, 5-1, 6-1, something like that? They were just bullied off the ice, and the Capitals are continuing to struggle. Last I checked, they were down 2-1 to the Winnipeg Jets. But, this was, that doesn't take away from the fact that this was a gigantic win for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Don't get me wrong. Coming back from 3-0 down in Vegas against one of the best teams in the league, you don't see that too often. And, this is per Bob Grove going into that second period when they were down 3-0 after the first. The Penguins had actually come back in 3 of their last 10 games where they have trailed 0-3 going into the second. Let's make it 4 of their last 11. They have now come back and won. So I'll give you all that stat as well. Now, going into some more player performances, Kris Letang, there was a couple shifts in that first period that he definitely does not want to watch, I would say, on the film room again. It was one of them was on the power play. So the Penguins, they come into the zone. Brian Russ, of course, is still on the top power play for Evan Rodriguez. I personally disagree with that. What are you going to do? But so they have everything set up. Letang is running it from the point. He obviously sees one of the Vegas penalty killers sticks, pointing out, and he still elects to pass it cross ice to Evgeny Malkin, gets intercepted, and then he's skating back, is not even really making an effort to play defense, and then Vegas almost scores on that opportunity. Don't get me wrong. I love Kris Letang. I think he's had a phenomenal season. This is probably his best season in 6 years. That said, I mean, I don't know what he was doing there. That's probably not going to happen again, but, I got to be fair. When I praise him, I praise him. But when I call him out, it's usually warranted, and that was warranted. And the other one as well, comes back, basically does the same thing again, and then doesn't try to play defense. It's just like, okay, get him off the ice there, let him recoup. They did that, and he was fine for the rest of the game. But it's like, I don't need to see Kris Letang, just making dumb cross ice passes and not even attempting to play defense when there's a one-on-one situation the other way. So those are my thoughts on that. Sidney Crosby, bit of a mixed bag. There was a prime power play chance in the first. This was in the second period. Excuse me. And wide open lane to shoot. It's almost like a mini 2-on-1 situation. He has the puck. And this has been a player that's not been shooting the puck a lot lately, has not been scoring a lot of goals. You would think, Sidney Crosby's going to let this one rip. Nope. Tries to force pass, gets intercepted, it's cleared. And it's just like, that was probably one of the most obvious shooting situations that I could ever see him be in because, again, there was no one in front of him. But he's still, deferring for a pass when he hasn't been scoring a lot lately. And I understand that he is in a bit of a slump in terms of his goal scoring ability. I know he scored an empty netter later on in the game, but in that kind of situation, I want to see Sid rip it. He's been struggling in that department, as I just said, about 3,000 times. Rip as many pucks as you can. Eventually, the regression to the mean is going to happen, and he is going to start to score more and more goals. That's just how it works in hockey. The more chances you get, the more likely it is that you are going to score. It's not rocket science here. I want to see Sid, actually attempt to shoot it more moving forward here because I did not like that at all. Otherwise, I thought he played a mostly okay game. It's just, something still is not right with him goal scoring wise. Evgeny Malkin, outside of that first game against Anaheim, you can definitely see he doesn't have his legs fully yet, but that's fine. He didn't practice in training camp. He's only had a handful of practices, coming back from this very major knee surgery. It's going to take him at least a little while to get back into game action. He's only been playing for 4 games. Let's give the guy a break here. But, he's already had a positive impact on Jason Zucker. He had 2 goals in that game. Kasperi Kapanen also had the assist on 1 or 2 of those. He's having a great impact on those 2 players. You can really see, how much Zucker and Kapanen mean, or how much Malkin means, to Zucker and Kapanen, just because, I think they turn into different players, when they have him in the lineup. So those are my overall thoughts on just some of the core players, though. I do want to say one thing about a player that I think not a lot of people noticed last night, but, I definitely did. Dominic Simone. There was a reason why he got the little warrior helmet after the game, whatever the bold penguin helmet, excuse me. I don't know why I totally forgot that. There's a reason why he got that after the game because of his defensive work was incredible. He was creating scoring chances left and right. I know the big knock on him is that he's not scoring, but, he's also a 13th or 14th forward. He's not a regular in this lineup, especially when they're not healthy. He's probably going to be behind Brian Boyle on the depth chart. That said, there were multiple instances in this game where he had amazing back checks to break up chances and the puck went the other way in favor of the Penguins. And, the players definitely took notice of that. And that is why he got the helmet after the game. DK of DK Pittsburgh Sports, he had a great segment on this, in his daily shot of Penguins on Tuesday morning. If you haven't gotten to listen to that, definitely go do that. He does a great job with that stuff every day as well, just like me. I'd like to think that we have the 2 best daily podcasts on the Penguins out there. So overall, though, I thought he was tremendous. Again, he's not going to score, but he does the little things really well. That's what it is. It's the little things with a player like that. So, all of the Dom Simone haters, get out of here. I don't really care what they think. Honestly, he really hasn't come up a lot lately, which is fine because, He's in a bottom six role. He's not playing with Sidney Crosby because if he was, what would be happening? Everyone would be coming for him. So whatever on that. But still have a little more to get to for this episode of Locked On Penguins. Might do a little preview for the game against Ottawa. Just touch on Matt Murray and a couple things. I don't really think, well, actually, no. I almost was about to say the worst thing you could ever say on a podcast, but that's just not happening here. But I also have some thoughts on Jake Gensel's goal and just the season that he is having, and a whole lot more coming up here in this next segment. All right. Welcome back to this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at LO_Penguins. What a goal last night by Jake. That was his 20th of the season. It is ridiculous that he is already at 20 goals this year, and the Penguins have played not even 41 games yet. In case you all are wondering, that is a 40-goal pace, or a little bit over a 40-goal pace, I should say. He has goals in 17 of his last 20 games. He also has points in, I believe the number is now 20 of his last 21. This player also makes $6 million per year. I wonder what this guy would get on the open market if he were allowed the chance. Would probably be well over 8, and rightfully so. He is now also one of only 5 players to have 20-plus goals in each of the last 5 seasons. This guy is one of the most, if not the most underrated player in the NHL. He was never a product of Sidney Crosby. He is an elite player in his own right, and it's about damn time, I think, media and just fans as a whole that are not the Penguins start giving him the respect he deserves, because he is a damn good player. Remember when this offseason when, there were some weird media hacks in the city saying like, well, you got to trade him for Matthew Tkachuk. His scoring is dried up in the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. I hope no one listened to those naysayers that really don't know what they're talking about. Playoff scoring is hard. I will always die on that hill. Hell, there were years where Sidney Crosby did not even score in the playoffs. Actually, multiple years where he doesn't. But, are you going to trade Sidney Crosby? No, you're not going to trade Sidney Crosby. And no, you're not going to trade Jake Gensel. He is just such an important player to this team. Great on the power play, great at even strength. His defensive work is, probably not that good, but, you're not paying him $6 million to play good defense. You're paying him $6 million per year to score you goals. That's exactly what he has done this season. The only thing that's gotten in the way of him scoring are injuries. But, knock on wood, as I just did right now on the YouTube, for the YouTube page, I should say. Hopefully he does not get hurt this season. God forbid, I do not want that coming to life. But, the wraparound goal on Leonard, just, he's able to corral the puck so well and then go around the net. Leonard is obviously flopping around and then he just tucks it in nice and easy. Penguins have the lead 4-3 and then they don't squander the rest of the game. He is just on another level right now. I really don't know what else to say at this point about Jake. I'm glad that he got the last 4 in for the All-Star game today. It was supposed to be Mika Zibanejad, but I think due to personal reasons, I think was what the reasoning was, he's not able to go, so they put Jake in. I'm so ecstatic that he is going to be going to the All-Star game, and he deserves it. One of the best players in the league this year. And, again, he is a top 5 pure goal scorer in the NHL, and I will not hear otherwise. That's for sure. Later on this week, so the Penguins, they're playing Ottawa, and then they're also playing Columbus. So goaltending-wise, I would expect Louis Domingue to start against the Senators. This is just me guessing and what I expect. Obviously, Mike Sullivan has gone against what I've guessed numerous times, so, let's see if I get old takes exposed for this one. But I would then expect Jarry to go in Columbus. This will be the Penguins' first meeting against Columbus this season, and the first time they'll play Columbus in about 2 years. So that should be interesting. The Blue Jackets have really fallen off the last few weeks. They started out hot. We're playing well. They were in a playoff spot, but, they've fallen out so far where it's just like, yeah, they're toast, I think, at this point. But that's what I would expect, though, from the goaltending goaltending circle. I think I just screwed up that word. Goaltending tandem, I should say. I don't even know what the heck is going on at this point. But, the schedule coming up for the Penguins is actually really, there's a big opportunity here. So, Ottawa on Thursday, Columbus Friday, Winnipeg on Sunday, Arizona Tuesday next week, Seattle next Thursday, Detroit next Friday, LA January 30th, and then they have Washington. And then they have that 3-week break, at least for now. Elliot Freeman reported earlier on Tuesday that it sounds like they're going to be announcing those postponed games as early as Wednesday. So that means basically, we'll be finding out when those postponed games for the Penguins will take place. It'll be during that stretch from February 2nd to about February 23rd. Just don't know the exact dates just yet. But that'll do it for this segment of the Locked On Penguins podcast and the episode as a whole. I know I said I was going to get to maybe a little Ottawa preview. I'm going to save that actually for Wednesday's episode. That will be the main topic of discussion for that one. And we'll also get into a couple other things as well that I have planned. So thank you all so much for listening to this episode, and I'll talk to you all on Wednesday.